They beat me, humiliated me, and forced me to witness my wife willingly becoming their object of desire. Her boss, Rick, ridiculed me, sending a disturbing video and warning me to stay away from them. They assumed I was broken, convinced I would remain powerless forever. But while they celebrated their lust and dominance, I was silently planning their downfall. Soon my unfaithful wife and every last one of them would beg for the mercy they had never shown me. I had always valued loyalty, a principle my parents instilled in me, one I cherished in my marriage to Sarah. We had been together for 8 years. 8 years I believed were filled with love, trust, and partnership. We had built a home, a life, a future. But, as is often the case, it isn't the small cracks you notice at first. It's the ones that expand into chasms you can no longer ignore. Sarah had always been ambitious, a driven woman with grand dreams. She worked as a manager at a prestigious firm and, for the most part, was admired. She was intelligent, confident, and her achievements shone brightly. But as her career soared, our relationship began to erode. It wasn't abrupt, it was gradual. She grew distant, detached from the things that once united us. The late nights at the office, the unexplained weekend trips with friends I couldn't join, and the increasingly cold responses when I sought connection. I began noticing oddities. Small things, her phone always face down, her vague answers about her day. Yet, I couldn't bring myself to ask the question. Not until the night everything collapsed. It happened when I returned home early from work, excited to surprise Sarah with dinner, to share a quiet evening together. Instead, I walked into a scene that would haunt me forever. In our bedroom, I first heard the muffled voices. There, in the center of our sanctuary, were Sarah and her boss Rick, the man she spent endless hours with, the constant presence in our lives. They were entwined, with Sarah showing no resistance. The expression on her face, pleasure, satisfaction, was one I would never forget. Not from me. The ground seemed to vanish beneath me. For a moment I was frozen. Then they noticed me. Rick, ever the charismatic predator, smiled smugly. "She's mine now, buddy," he said, cold and triumphant. "You've always been just a stepping stone." I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. It was like watching a film where I was the fool, the weak man, powerless. Sarah didn't even acknowledge me. She continued as if I didn't exist. The silence that followed was suffocating. The worst part came days later. I received a message from Rick. A video of Sarah, willing, smiling with him, her expression unchanged from that night. The message ended with Rick's voice. "Stay out of our way. You don't matter anymore." The words struck harder than anything. I was invisible to them. Rick mocked me, reinforcing my helplessness. Sarah didn't resist, didn't care. They believed I was broken, too weak to retaliate. They were wrong. Pain transformed into something darker, more potent. It was no longer mere anger. It was cold, controlled rage. I knew immediate confrontation would be fatal. They would win. Patience, strategy, and precision were key. It wasn't just revenge. It was obliteration of their security, reclaiming everything they stole. I began gathering information meticulously. I learned everything about their relationship, business, and secrets. Rick's finances, Sarah's accounts, every detail I could exploit. Simultaneously, I transformed. The man they had crushed became someone formidable, someone who would make them beg. Slowly, I rebuilt my mind and spirit, becoming a ghost in their world, observing as Sarah and Rick flaunted their affair. Months of planning followed. I exposed Rick's shady financial dealings, embezzlement, fraud, tax evasion, enough to ruin him. I leaked the evidence to authorities and media, ensuring his public humiliation. Then I focused on Sarah, revealing her betrayal to friends, family, and colleagues. Her reputation was destroyed, and she was forced to resign. I didn't stop there. I wanted them to feel the loss they had inflicted on me. I sold our house, our cars, and all possessions, leaving Sarah with nothing. All ties were severed. She could never reach me again. Rick faced arrest, charges, and a ruined career. Media scrutiny turned him into a pariah. In the end, I walked away from the wreckage I had orchestrated. I had taken everything from them, just as they had from me. Yet the satisfaction I imagined never arrived. Instead, emptiness lingered. The rage that drove me had burned out, leaving only ashes. I had won, but at what cost? I had become what I despised, a man consumed by vengeance. Looking back, I realized true victory would have been walking away from the start, leaving them to their own devices while I found a way to heal. But it was too late for that now. The fire I had ignited had devoured everything in its path, including me. Standing amid the ruins of my former life, I knew I would never be the same. I leaked documents to the press exposing Rick's involvement in tax fraud, embezzlement, and illegal business transactions. The scandal hit hard. Within weeks, his business partners distanced themselves, and authorities launched a formal investigation. But that was just the beginning. I needed to dismantle Sarah's world too. She had aided him after all. I ensured the media received a complete dossier detailing her complicity in the fraud, her betrayal, and her infidelity. The public turned on her. Friends, colleagues, even family began pulling away. She believed she could escape, but consequences always catch up. Weeks passed while Sarah and Rick reveled in their illicit affair, unaware of the storm closing in. The noose I had been tightening silently began to choke them. The first crack appeared when Rick's company received calls from journalists inquiring about the leaks. The details of his fraudulent activities and financial corruption began eroding his reputation in the business world. It wasn't just the press. His partners started distancing themselves, seeing him as a liability rather than the charismatic figure they once admired. The fallout extended beyond his professional life. Rick's personal world crumbled as news of his crimes, coupled with the public exposure of his affair with Sarah, spread like wildfire across social media. Friends, acquaintances, and even strangers expressed disgust at his hypocrisy and Sarah's involvement. Their world was unraveling. But I knew the final act of revenge had to be more personal, more precise. Targeting Sarah required timing. She never anticipated it, convinced she had escaped the consequences of her betrayal. I waited for the perfect moment. At her lowest point, career on the brink, reputation shattered, colleagues avoiding her, I struck. I sent a confidential letter to Sarah's CEO detailing her role in Rick's fraud. It exposed how she had used her position to cover discrepancies and actively participate in money laundering. I attached evidence, emails, bank transfers, and falsified invoices proving her involvement. The letter didn't go unnoticed. The next day, she was called into an emergency board meeting. When she emerged, she wasn't merely embarrassed, she was fired. Everything was falling into place. Rick's reputation was ruined. It was time for the ultimate confrontation. I invited Sarah and Rick to an upscale restaurant, a place where they felt safe, thinking they had escaped unscathed. They were wrong. When they arrived, their arrogance was palpable. Sitting across from me, masks of self-satisfaction firmly in place, Rick asked with a smug smile, "How's everything going, Ryan? Didn't seem like you had much left." "Actually," I replied calmly, "it's going very well. Funny how quickly things can change, isn't it?" Sarah froze, color draining from her face as panic set in. But the moment came when I placed an envelope on the table. "This is for you," I said, sliding it forward with a cold smile. Rick's hands trembled as he opened it. Eyes widening, he demanded, "What is this?" Inside were the final blows. Confidential documents exposing years of embezzlement, illegal deals, and undeniable proof of his affair with Sarah, enough to ruin his professional life. I had already ensured authorities, media, and board members had copies. The final nail in their coffins was set. I was only making certain they faced the full exposure. Within a week, their world collapsed. Rick was fired, arrested for embezzlement, and convicted of fraud. Media coverage was relentless. Allies abandoned him, and his empire crumbled. Sarah's career ended abruptly. Her involvement in the scandal and affair ensured she could find no future employment. Friends and family turned their backs. The most profound realization for Sarah was that I didn't need her. I didn't need the woman who had destroyed my life. I had reclaimed my existence. Satisfaction wasn't watching them lose. It was knowing they had made me the villain. But in the end, I became the hero of my own story. When it was over, I walked away from the wreckage, not because I had to, but because I chose to. I had proven my point. Betrayal has consequences, and it's never worth destroying someone for selfish gain. I never sought forgiveness from Sarah. She lost that chance the moment she betrayed me. Her humiliation was the only justice I needed. Rick's arrogance and greed were his undoing. He thought he could outsmart me, seize my life, and enjoy power. But in the end, he lost everything. Was my revenge justified, or did I go too far? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you love ruthless revenge stories, subscribe for more. Like and share this video, it means a lot. Every video takes time, dedication, and heart to create.